Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and really, I very much hope that this video finds you well, or as well as can be expected during these times. And please continue to take very good care of yourselves. And if you don't mind, today I would very much like to continue on with a discussion of the recent releases made by the Criterion collection. And this time I'd like to focus our attention on spine number 1026. This is a film from 2005. The filmmaker's name is Miranda, July, and the title is Me and You and Everyone We Know. This is the film from 2005 from a very exciting filmmaker and artist, Miranda July, who as an artist, as you may know already, has found throughout her career many forms and avenues of artistic expression. One of those avenues is this film, Me and You and Everyone We Know. I think that this film is very charming, it is very sincere, it is a very earnest look at a number of characters whose stories are interwoven in a way that might be called vignettes, but they are interconnected in very subtle, sometimes direct ways, but there are connections that exist, and it's up to us to try to figure out those connections. And I would say further that the establishment of connections, the identifying of connections, the identifying of the existence of the connections, and the searching out of connections with others is one of the themes that I would say is at the very heart and center and soul of this film. This is a film that is a tapestry of characters, very interesting characters, perhaps found in very idiosyncratic, some might say quirky or offbeat ways. But there is always an earnestness, a real sincerity, and a tenderness in the treatment of the characters in this film, all of whom are dealing with some kind of personal issue or issues, whether that be issues relating to relationships and trying to start over after the end of certain relationships, as some of the characters go through. Or with others, it might be the attempt at trying to reach out and connect with others through whatever means are possible within that personal character. And sometimes these means might seem to us as viewers to be somewhat strange and maybe even somewhat disheartening, but other times they might be seen as being, again, sincere attempts at trying to make or forge some kind of connection with the world and with the people that occupy it. And this film is also about children, about growing up, and about the the yearning, if you will, or desire, or maybe curiosity that comes with trying to make sense of certain aspects of the world from the viewpoint or the vantage point of younger people, of children at various ages. And we see children characters at various ages here dealing with their own particular issues, whether it be, as I say, this notion of trying to connect with others, trying to make friends, or trying to connect in other ways, or trying to deal with issues or questions about one's own bodies or one's own sexuality, and those sorts of questions that continue on from there. So there is a sense of yearning, searching, trying to make connections, trying to forge some kind of path of discovery and self-discovery. And it is all taking place in this particular world that Miranda July is painting for us. And it's a world that is occupied with a lot of warmth, a lot of humor, a lot of very sort of offbeat humor, a lot of genuine sincerity, and a lot of cleverness. There is a great deal of clever dialogue. It's never too how should I put it? It's never too forced. It feels offbeat enough, but it still feels natural. And there is a real sense of a kind of genuineness that is at the heart of all the human situations that occur in each of these various vignettes. Now, I should say also that this film won't necessarily be for everyone, because it does deal with certain themes, say, of, I mentioned before, kind of awakening or curiosity about one's own bodies and one's own sexuality. And so this film does deal to a certain degree with the concept of sexuality and the exploration of sexuality. There are themes that might be considered to be perhaps of a more mature nature. And so therefore this film might not necessarily be for everyone. However, I would also suggest that even the treatment of these sexual related themes is done in a way that is always very earnest, very sincere, and is always getting at the heart of something that is not at all meant to be a kind of exploitation, but rather it is always meant to be a sincere effort at trying to get at the heart of what it is to try to make a connection with another human being, what it is to feel lonely, or what it is to try to make sense of this feeling of loneliness or this yearning to want to connect with others. And maybe that says something about ourselves and how we view ourselves. And from that, we can maybe go forward with a better understanding of ourselves and the people around us. And so I think that this film is, as I say, it might not necessarily be for everyone, but at the same time, it is dealing with these somewhat mature themes, but it is done in a way that is always, I think, very sincere and is genuine. And it's done in a way that I think is speaking towards, or speaking to, the art and the expressiveness that Miranda July is really trying to get a hold of here, namely this idea of essentially trying to make connections in this world, where sometimes making connections is not always the easiest thing to do, and that kind of notion of discovery and self-discovery along the way, and with a dash of humor and a dash of warmth, and a mix of visual collage type of visual style, and a very interesting use of music. This comes together in a way that feels, as I say, earnest and sincere, and really from the heart. So this is a very interesting and delightful work from the very interesting and delightful artist, Miranda July. This is Me and You and Everyone We Know. Now, this is the Criterion release. And this is the Blu-ray that I have right here. So you can see the front cover is a kind of collage, and then the back cover is continuing on with this this pink or magenta color palette. And it has a nice collage motif there, which is, I think, meant to portray or to suggest the vignette style of the film. As I mentioned, this is a film that is a collection of different characters who each has his or her own specific story, and sometimes the stories merge or interconnect, and then they sometimes interconnect directly, but there are other ways that they connect, other surprising ways that they connect, and that's part of the appeal of watching this film, I think, is seeing how the connections are made. But as you can see, the collage type of theme that is at the heart of this cover art, I think, is very much appropriate for the work itself. So that's very good. And then we have the film. It's referred to as a high-definition digital master, approved by the director Jolie herself, and it's very clear and very bright. If you want to have a kind of comparative look, I would suggest taking a look at the trailer of the film, which is included as part of the supplements. And it's not a perfect comparison, I know, but you can compare some scenes that you can find in the trailer versus the same scenes as they appear in this transfer as it's included in the Criterion release. And you can tell a difference. The trailer has the same scenes, but they're a little bit darker, quite significantly darker, by the way. But here in the film itself, as it's included in the Criterion release, everything is very bright, it's opened up, and it's clear, and it looks vibrant and fresh. So it's nice to have this nice presentation from the Criterion collection. But that is not all, because we also have here a large collection of supplements, a very deep well, if you will, of supplements, and some have to do with the film, and others have to do with Miranda July herself as an artist, and others may be having to do with both of them, both the film and then July herself. And so it's a very interesting mix, a very valuable mix of supplements for anyone who's interested in exploring or getting to know more about Miranda July herself as the artist, how she works, what her style is, and the like. And so let's see. So the first supplement is a 51-minute documentary, or it's probably better described as being a discussion or a conversation between Lena Dunham and Miranda July. And the subject is Miranda July. So it's called Miranda July, Where It Began. And so Lena Dunham is acting as a kind of interviewer of Miranda July. She is also a fan of Miranda July, as she expresses in this conversation. And so it's nice to have that and have her ask questions of Miranda July about her inspirations. They're in her office, and so they can look at some of the related items that have to do with Me and You and Everyone We Know. There are some notebooks that are cataloged and in boxes, and so there are some scenes where you can see Miranda July actually looking through some of her handwritten notebooks that she made many years ago, before the film was ever even made, but she was still coming up with these ideas. And so they're just like notebooks, but she describes them as being like the working scripts of the films, because some of the examples that she's able to pull from some of these notebooks are almost identical to the final film scenes themselves. So that's very interesting. The discussion between Lena Dunham and Miranda July also goes into July's early career, her work with respect to, for example, Joanie for Jackie, which we'll talk about in a second, and also some of her short films also, which we'll talk about in a second. And then just working through certain aspects of Miranda July's early career up to Me and You and Everyone We Know, and the planning process and her output as an artist with respect to art media other than cinema and film. Again, it's a fascinating conversation. We really get a sense of Miranda July's sort of state of being and state of mind, if you will, as an artist, and as a very exciting quite unique artist. So, and then we talk about the film itself, and there's discussion about certain aspects of the film, the casting, how Miranda July felt as a filmmaker, where she felt that she was getting a lot of assistance and guidance from, and talking about the success of the film at the Cannes Film Festival. And also the two of them talk about their mutual love and admiration for Agnes Varda. So that's also very interesting. And many other aspects of Miranda July's art and filmmaking background and her style and her approach to the art. All these details come out and more. And so this is a very interesting interview. Once again, this is called Miranda July, Where It Began. But that is not all, because the second supplement that we have is a short 10-minute documentary, or another sort of interview / documentary, which is called Open to the World. And this is documenting an art project or a collaboration that Miranda July had in the summer of 2017 with Art Angel. And the collaboration's subject was essentially creating an interfaith charity shop in a Selfridges in England. And what this essentially was a shopping center or department store space would be used for Miranda July's collaboration and her project, which was collaborating or working with various charity shops in the area and coming together with a pre-planned set of items that would be on display and on sale for purposes of creating in this space a shop, an interfaith charity shop. And that was and there were certain criteria that Miranda July had with respect to the particular items that could be used as articles for sale in this interfaith charity shop. And she goes over these in this particular interview. Again, it's very fascinating. This is not directly relevant to the film itself, Me and You and Everyone We Know, in that it doesn't go into the filmmaking process of this film. It doesn't go into any details directly related to this film, but it is related, or it is relevant to this film, in that this is another glimpse at Miranda July and her process, if you will, or her thinking. We see her interacting with other people. We see her philosophy, if you will, vis-a-vis this particular project or this particular shop and the planning behind it. And we see all of this, and it is very relevant as a kind of broadening of the context of understanding with respect to her as an artist and thus as a filmmaker who has made this film, Me and You and Everyone We Know. It's, again, a fascinating document for many reasons, one of which I think being we see the artist at work, and we see the artist working with others and interacting with others. And so this is, again, another great insight into Miranda July, the artist. So this is a short documentary called Open to the World. Next, we have another sort of documentary, which is about 13 minutes. And this is a very interesting one. This is 2005 Deauville American Film Festival footage that was shot by Miranda July, at least according to the Criterion description. So we have footage on video shot by Miranda July of this particular Deauville American Film Festival 2005, which is the year, of course, of this film, Me and You and Everyone We Know. So she's there at this film festival, and she's taking all this video footage. And then what happened was that, according to the Criterion description, Criterion they took the footage and they edited it together in a way to create this 13-minute, essentially a kind of documentary, but it really isn't. It's more of I would actually describe it as being a video montage, or maybe even a short film directed by Miranda July, edited by the Criterion Collection. How about that? So it's a kind of short film in a way, in that it is Miranda July's experience through this video footage of her time at this particular film festival. And it's fascinating stuff because we see her interacting with the particular people there. There are a lot of famous figures in the cinema community that are there and that she recognizes. And there's one particular moment where she's so fascinated with a house that is across the street from the hotel that she's in. And she's so fascinated with this house, and so she has her video camera focused on this house. But then the translator that is with her, the French translator that is with her, lets her know that actually on the terrace of the hotel that she's staying in, Forrest Whitaker is actually right there. And so Forrest Whitaker is here, and then the hotel is, the house that she's fascinated with is here. So there's a moment where it's almost like she's struggling, what should I focus on with my video camera, Forrest Whitaker or this house that I'm really focusing on? And then what happens is that we actually follow her trying to figure out more things about this particular house, which is across the street from the hotel. And then that's just one example of her on-the-spot spontaneity and creativity. And it's maybe it's also perhaps just an expression of who she is and what she's all about and the kind of personality and the sort of vibes that she gives off when she is just engaged with things that she finds fascinating, like this house, for instance. And other things like that come up in this, again, 13-minute Criterion edited video footage compilation / short film, again from 2005 Deauville American Film Festival. It is very, very fascinating. Again, this is another look into the heart and soul and the mind of Miranda July, and when you're looking at the world the way she is looking at it. And it is fascinating. Again, there are some hints and subtleties that we can actually relate to this film, Me and You and Everyone We Know, in how she sees the world, how she is interacting with pictures and interacting with herself, and how that is both funny and also sincere and from the heart. And really, there is a sort of offbeat nature to it, but it is never aggressive. It is never threatening. It is always very calm and very genuine. And I think that says a lot about her as a filmmaker of this particular film. So again, another great glimpse into the working mind, the artistic mind of Miranda July in this particular Criterion edited supplement. So well done, Criterion. But that is not all, because next we have some workshop scenes from the Sundance Directors Lab from 2003. And this is about 20 minutes in total. So Miranda July is an artist and a filmmaker who has a very interesting background and career up to the making of this film. And one component of that particular background up to this film is a period of time where she was essentially workshopping. She was in this director workshop, Sundance. And so there's some very interesting setups and scenes that she has workshopped here and that are included as part of this particular section of this supplements. And so we have 6 scenes that are workshop scenes, and they are shot on videotape, I think, and they're shot with, I think, very simple setups. But these are scenes that have echoes or that are almost direct copies of how should I, well, let me put it this way, copies, but these scenes in the workshop that we have in the Criterion supplement are, in a sense, scenes that we will later find in one form or another in the final film. And so these are almost like working drafts or early drafts in visual form of certain scenes. And we see how they ended up transforming or staying the same in some instances when we see the final film. So this is another fascinating insight into the filmmaking craft of Miranda July, but this time directly set against the context of the making of this film. And so really wonderful stuff. Now, there is also an optional commentary by Miranda July herself over these workshopped scenes in this particular supplement. This is also very interesting. I should point out that this film, as released by the Criterion Collection itself, does not have any optional audio commentary track, which is a shame. It would have been nice to have an audio commentary track, but it doesn't, unfortunately. It's still it's a great film to have and watch, but it doesn't have the audio commentary. But interestingly enough, this Sundance Directors Lab workshop scenes section in the supplements has an optional commentary track by Miranda July herself. And so on that commentary track, she is talking sometimes about this particular workshop and the particular scenes and the circumstances with respect to the workshop, but also because the scenes are in spirit scenes that we will later see in the final film themselves. She is also talking, in a sense, about the spirit of these scenes, which is directly relevant to the final product or the final film. So in a way, again, it's only with respect to these 6 scenes that are in the workshop section here, but still, we are getting a kind of commentary regarding the film from July from a certain point of view. So this, I think, is very, very valuable. And it's not just a glimpse into the filmmaking process of Miranda July, but it also is giving us audio commentary comments from July herself about certain aspects of these scenes and how they played out, and that they provide great insight into the film, the final film itself. So again, this is, I think, very valuable and very essential for anyone who's interested in learning more about this film. So wonderful stuff. But that's not all, because next we have another section which is called Deleted Scenes. And the deleted scenes section has 5 scenes that are labeled as deleted scenes. I would actually call them, for the most part, maybe either deleted scenes, or there's actually one scene which I wouldn't call a deleted scene, but I would actually call an alternate scene, or an extended version of a particular scene that is actually included in this film. Again, I don't want to be too detailed here because I don't want to spoil it, but there are some deleted scenes which I think are very fascinating to watch. They add further dimension to the relevant characters on display here. And then there's as I say, there's one scene which I wouldn't call a deleted scene as much as I would call an extended or alternate scene of a particular scene that is already included in the final film. But this section is called Deleted Scenes, and again, it is very fascinating to see what was changed for purposes of the final film edit, etc. So well worth checking out. Next, we have a number of very interesting supplements. So the next thing we have is a short film by Miranda July, which is called The Amateurist. This is from 1998, and it's about 14 minutes. This film was referred to in some of the other supplements where July was talking about her prior film career, or her career as an artist and also as a maker of short films prior to Me and You and Everyone We Know. And one of those examples is this film, The Amateurist, and it is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating to see her at work in this medium. And she is already forging ahead with a really, it looks simple, but it's a really tour de force of creativity with seemingly simple means. But I say seemingly simple because I don't want to suggest that it is simple. There is a lot of thought and a lot of care and a lot of real thinking that is at the heart of this work. And it also shows the sensitivity of July as an artist. It also shows some of her concerns in terms of the visual medium, in terms of viewership of the body, of the human form. It also shows a kind of randomness that can be funny or quirky or filled with humor. And it also has Miranda July herself, and it shows her very warm and attractive character. A very effervescent character that makes us want to see more of what she is wanting to tell us as a filmmaker. And so I find this to be a great example of another glimpse into Miranda July's approach as an artist. So very interesting short work called The Amateurist. But that's not all, because we have another short film by July herself called Nest of Tens. This is a little bit longer, about 30 minutes, 27 minutes, excuse me. And this is another film that was referred to in an earlier supplement that's found on the Criterion collection. And this is utterly fascinating. This, on some levels, it might be seen as being a kind of trial run, if you will, for the film that eventually became Me and You and Everyone We Know, because there are many parallels that can be made between the short film Nest of Tens and the longer feature film that came later, which is Me and You and Everyone We Know. But actually, Nest of Tens itself is a very good short film. It has a very captivating story, or I should say a set of stories, because like Me and You and Everyone We Know, the short film Nest of Tens is a tapestry, a tableau, a series of various vignettes that are woven together. And we get a large tapestry of different characters. They might be connected, they might not be connected, who knows? But there is an interesting sense here, and there are interesting, somewhat frank displays sometimes of sexuality and the need or the desire to want to express some kind of aspect of sexuality. There are also aspects of communication. There are also very quirky, funny moments, and there is also the very idiosyncratic style that is laid bare in a very earnest, funny, witty, and genuinely warm way. And so I think this can be seen as being a kind of precursor to the film Me and You and Everyone We Know, but it is also itself a very powerful reminder, another great reminder of just how interesting an artist Miranda July is. So if you liked Me and You and Everyone We Know and you haven't seen Nest of Tens, this is something that you should check out, really. The Amateurist and Nest of Tens, these are really fascinating short films. So just check those out if you're interested. But that is not all, because we have next, the next supplement is a supplement that is devoted to the very interesting art film project work, which is Joanie for Jackie. It was used to be called Big Miss Moviola, but then it was changed to Joanie for Jackie. And this project, this Joanie for Jackie project, is in and of itself very, very fascinating. And it came very early, about maybe starting about 10 years or so prior to the release of this film. And this was essentially Miranda July's effort at trying to reach out to as many people in the country as possible, and in particular women, and asking women to make their own films and to submit them to Miranda July. And then Miranda July would then create VHS tapes, or put films on VHS tapes, and then return the tape to the person who submitted the film to begin with. And so what that would mean is that the person who made the film would get this tape and see not just her own film, but also films from other filmmakers, and who also submitted to Miranda July at the same time. And so these became what are sometimes referred to as kind of chain letter videotapes. but they're in essence Miranda July's attempt at trying to collect and gather these films that are made by women from anywhere who wanted to submit them, and then she would take them and then she would put them together and create this very intimate network of artists who found a way through this project, the Joanie for Jackie project, who find a way to have a forum of self-expression through these films. And so this is a very fascinating project. And again, this was started in the mid-90s, and it carried through to the late 90s and then into the 2000s. And so this is before the development of the platform like YouTube or anything like that. And so, but this was also, I think, a very interesting project because it meant that these filmmakers were really working from the heart, and they were working with the materials that they had at their disposal, and they have a homemade feel to them that is also the ultimate expression of their creativity and their artistic concerns, if you will, as made manifest in these short films. And it also created this sense, I wouldn't call it underground per se, but it's the sense of an intimate network. Miranda July would just hand out flyers or just make these flyers and ask maybe friends who were in bands to distribute them, and then from there she'd get these films from people from parts of the country. And so that became the project, and became this way for her to essentially connect with other artists and also to try to spread the word as far as young as far as women who wanted to find ways of creativity. And so this is for many reasons this is such a wonderful project. And what we have in the Criterion collection here, we have two subsections in this particular part. So the first subsection is what's known as a quick overview, and this is a quick 16-minute documentary / interview with July and with other participants in this Joanie for Jackie project, this whole work, this great thing. And so we get their explanation and the description as to what the project was and what it meant for them, and also how this impacted July's art and how it affected these particular participants, etc. And it's just a wonderful way of getting into this particular thing if one isn't necessarily familiar with it. So this is a good place to start if you want to learn a little bit about what this exactly was. But that is not all, because the second subcomponent or subsection of this particular part of the Criterion supplements is a place where we have four examples of some of these short films that were submitted by these women for the purpose of the Joanie for Jackie project. It's not the entirety of the Joanie for Jackie project, because as you can imagine, there are so many films that were then put together on a great number of tapes, etc. So it's not the entirety of the Joanie for Jackie project, but it is only 4 examples. But these are really great examples because they are each different in tone. They have a different approach, and yet they are all very intimate. They are very real and raw, and they have a wonderful sense of a palpable homemade quality that is utterly endearing, so captivating, and very rich, and quite emotionally revealing. So this is a great selection of the Joanie for Jackie films. So the first one is from, according to Criterion, from 1995, which is called Dear Mom, and the filmmaker is Tammy Carland, and it's a very good one. And then the next one is The Slow Escape, which Criterion describes as being created in 1997. The filmmaker is Sativa Paterson. Very interesting work. And then the next one is No Place Like Home, #1 and #2. And this is described as being from 1999, Karen Yasinsky. And these are animated shorts. These are animation, stop-motion animation works, and very interesting. And then the fourth film is GIGI from 9 to 5, and this is described as being from 2001, and the filmmaker is Joanne Nucho. And this is a musical. This is a very creative musical, and there are songs and there are sort of dance numbers as well. So again, another creative one. All of these are really creative, really wonderful bursts of creative energy that are also revealing an intimate approach to the film and video making craft, and are really trying to say things that are from the heart and real, and also very creatively put together and artistically quite wonderful and memorable. So these 4 examples of the Joanie for Jackie project are just wonderful things to have, and it's great. It's great to have these, and I'm so happy that they're there. Once again, this whole project, Joanie for Jackie, is yet another project, another way in which Miranda July was trying to do something, and she did it. And again, it might not necessarily be directly relevant to me and you and everyone we know, but it is also very relevant in the sense that she is trying to create a sense of creativity, and she's trying to create this environment of creativity. And these filmmakers, the example in the Joanie for Jackie project, and in, for example, the filmmakers who are featured in this Criterion supplement, are all trying to express themselves in this way. And so I really feel like there is a sense of kinship, artistic kinship that is at play here. And there's a real sense of encouragement and support. But not only that, there is a real burst of creative energy, as I tried to explain, that I feel is running in parallel with the same kind of bursts of creative energy that we see from Miranda July. So this is wonderful stuff, strongly, strongly recommended. And then last but not least, we have the trailer, which is about a 2-minute, 30-second trailer, and it's a very good trailer. And so you can also look at the trailer, as I mentioned earlier, to see how some of the scenes seem a little bit darker in the trailer versus how they look in the presentation by Criterion. So really wonderful stuff. But that's not all, because we also have the booklet, which is here in this wonderful stapled booklet, and I'm a big fan of the Criterion stapled booklet because it has a lot of pages in it, which is brilliant, and it has this pink motif, which I think is very appropriate. For those of you who know the film, you know that maybe color schemes are very important, and the color pink is also very significant. So we have the front there, and then the back, which has an interesting little logo or design, which is very significant and relevant to the film itself. So that's really nice to see. But we have this booklet, which is, it does have certain pictures from the film itself. So that's very good. It also has a list of the cast and crew, which we also find in these Criterion booklets, which is great. But this also has the information about the master and about the master for the film, and it has acknowledgments and production credits as well. But what it also has are 2 essays. The first is by Sara Magenheimer, which is called Punk Cars, Bodies, Movies. And this is great because she is an artist, and she is writing about Miranda July, who is also an artist. And so she is really giving us an essay that is talking about Miranda July and her career and her works, and how her being an artist is really, and what kind of artist she is really at the heart and soul of what's fueling her, and the drive and the reasons behind this film in the first place. And we get it from the perspective of another artist. And so I find this to be very valuable and quite an illuminative essay from Sara Magenheimer. So that's really worthwhile to check out if you are able to read it. Once again, it's called Punk, Cars, Bodies, Movies. But that's not all, because the second essay is called Performance Rights by Lauren Groff. And this is great because this is going into, it talks about Miranda July herself, of course, but it goes into another focus about the film itself. And so it's about the film and about how Lauren Groff was a big fan of the film, and also certain scenes and certain themes that emerge in the film, and specific discussions of characters in the film and how they're acting and how they're being portrayed, etc. So this is a great essay to have. Again, the first essay was about July the artist, perhaps, and then now we have July the filmmaker, and in particular me and you and everyone we know. So again, a wonderful set of essays from Criterion. I strongly recommend you check them out if you're able to. But then that is the booklet for me and you and everyone we know. So with that, my friends, that is the Criterion release, and it is a very packed one. It is a release that is about that is of this film itself, that is made by a very fascinating figure in the art and filmmaking world. That is Miranda July. And so with this Criterion collection release, you are getting not just the film itself, which is a really great film, but you are also getting a portrait or portraits of the artist herself. And so in those ways, this Criterion release, I think, is very valuable and very worth having if you're looking for this kind of exploration of an artist like Miranda July. An example of her art being, of course, this film, which is Me and You and Everyone We Know. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. And as always, please continue to take good care of yourselves. Be well, stay safe, and cheers.